People think that discrimination is a bad thing. Well, I would challenge you to live in a society where there is no discrimination, and I want to see how long you're going to survive. Actually, do you know that all the legislative system and judiciary system is based on discrimination? Do you know that the moral law is based on discrimination? Well, there is a way to discriminate properly and a way to discriminate not properly. Therefore, it implies that there must be a moral standard. Without moral standard, you can't discriminate properly. So we can conclude that discrimination is not a bad thing in itself. And why people define that to be a bad thing? Because of their poverty in language. They don't know how to define things. Therefore, their thoughts are limited. They are superficial because they don't know the terminology of how to think. Why do I say that? You would say thoughts are not words, where thoughts are actually words, because you are reasoning logically with words. And only emotions don't need words. But emotions not controlled by reason is a pretty bad thing, though. So we think that it is important to not discriminate generally in society, but actually it is not true. We have to discriminate for the good of us and for the good of society. So now the question is, what standard are we going to choose to determine what is good and what is bad, so that we can discriminate properly? Well, that's a big question. Some would say this one, others would say the other one. And based on the concept of freedom of conscience, everybody can choose whatever he wants as long as he doesn't disturb others. Now, the problem is that for some, this concept of as long as it doesn't disturb others, or as long as it doesn't create damage to others, is relative. So some would think that being unvaccinated doesn't bother others. Others would think that being unvaccinated bothers others and violates their rights. So you see that it's not that easy. Therefore, we have to have some standard to abide by. And informations, together with moral principles, they go together in determining what is the wisest thing to do. So since this situation, for example, of COVID-19 is not that easy to deal with in society because of this relative perspective on freedom of one person or of being damaged by another person, it is quite complicated. But this does not mean that we should, together with the idea of not discrimination, because you see, society is pretty weird today, because on one side is professing this freedom from discrimination. Don't discriminate against homosexuals, don't discriminate against, or I should say LGBTQ+, because it has to be inclusive, because other way some people get offended. You see, all of this issue is like super pushed in society. And then on the other hand, you have a situation where society in the vast majority, led by the so-called scientific world or the experts, are pushing towards the fact that the unvaccinated people are dangerous for others. So is this discrimination or not? Well, it all depends which value you give to right and wrong. So how is it possible that on one side we say don't discriminate, then on the other side we discriminate? Well, this is cognitive dissonance, which confirms the fact that discrimination exists, and it's normal, it's self-evident, and it is good that it exists, because other way we would not be able to discern good from evil, but that we have still to learn how to handle it, because it seems like in one side is mishandled and on the other side as well is mishandled. So my wish is that we learn how to think properly, we learn more words to reason properly, we need more informations and a little bit more patience and less emotional involvement in matters that we might be able to find truth, because truth does not need a lawyer. Truth defends herself and is going to come out, and all things are going to be laid open under the sun. So let us all be confident that those who follow the good will eventually prevail. And this is my wish for all of you, that you might follow your conscience, that you might learn to discriminate properly, and that society can be benefited by your presence, even if some people or the majority of society will be against you because of your the definition of what are the moral standards to discriminate by.